these journalists see it as like a zero-sum game. So somewhere in Kat Tenbarge and these people like her, their crazy thinking is the idea that any money that someone might be giving to a YouTuber or any ad revenue or whatever that YouTube is getting, that's money that's going away from Kat Tenbarge and what she'd be getting or what these people would be getting. Hey, let me tell you something that maybe no one has told you or you just can't accept. Nobody'd be watching your shit anyway. Okay? Because your stuff, I'm getting all excited here. Okay, just a second. Because your stuff, Kat Tenbarge, is lame. It's lame. It's not insightful. It's generally woke to the point where it's just completely lost perspective. So, I mean, for instance, well, I want to tell you one of the things that Kat Tenbarge has posted that I have a real problem with, and here's where I'm going to get controversial, and some people are going to get offended. But I want to read something that she posted. Just I guess like it was like a day or two ago. She says there is no right way to respond to sexual assault or violence. Some victims immediately turn to denial. Even though they've been victimized, they don't want to believe or accept it or face what comes next. Okay. But you'll see, and I don't actually disagree with that necessarily, but you'll see where she's going with this. And I hear this all the time from other people, and it drives me nuts. She says some victims continue to reach out to the assailant afterward or to try to establish a relationship with them beyond the assault. This is a way to try and regain control in a situation where you lost control and your consent was violated. Victims may not remember the entirety of the assault. That could be due to the influence of drugs or alcohol during the assault or the effects of trauma. Victims may contradict themselves or only remember certain details. If a victim omits elements of their account, it is likely because they fear being blamed or not believed. Stigma leads to an environment where victims don't feel safe to come forward. Now, in some ways, this might sound innocuous to people, and this is sort of part of my point, is that we in society, we have become sort of so cowed and rendered almost kind of zombified with these cliches that are put forward by particular interest groups or particular perspectives. And these cliches have just been recycled so many times. And also, at the same time that they're being recycled and they're being basically completely normalized, they're also protected. There's kind of a hedge that's put up around them. People say, well, you can't deny this or you can't question this because then you're victim blaming. You're doing something horrible. But I want you to understand, and the reason I bring this up is because people like Kat Tenbarge and some of these other journalists, they think that they are under this delusion that they actually offer more incisive and more insightful commentary than YouTubers. And so therefore they should be getting the money that they think that we're getting that generally we're not. But that's her thinking, right? Is that this is where people should come. Why aren't people looking at me? Why aren't people checking my stuff out as much as Tug? And if you think that that's not the case, you need to look back at some of Kat Tenbarge's old tweets. At one point, like a month ago, she was complaining again about YouTubers, and she actually accused us. She literally came out and said this, accused us of stealing her work, like co-opting it, appropriating it for ourselves, and then repackaging it and putting it out there. I have never gotten any information or any news or any insights from Kat Tenbarge. The only time that I use Kat Tenbarge's work is to ridicule it, generally when she is attacking me. And by the way, it's not like it's work. It's just her spouting opinions, you know. It's not like she's gone out and she's actually done real journalism. In fact, whenever I see her doing journalism on the social media or the YouTube or the Depp Heard stuff, it's riddled with errors. From what I've seen, errors and erroneous thinking. But she thinks that her commentary is so insightful. This is not insightful. I've heard this so many times. Everybody in the audience, I'm sorry. I know this is going to be controversial, and this is the kind of stuff that gets me in trouble. And this is, if YouTube is suppressing any of my work, you know, how would I know? But if it is, then of course it's because I'm saying this kind of stuff. But I just have to say it. We have heard time and time again this perspective. And it's a cliche, and she's spouting cliches that victims act completely irrational when they've been victimized. When an R or an SA occurs, they've been victimized, they're completely irrational. And then and all of these things that Kat Tinbarge lists. She says they don't remember details, or they get the details wrong. They contact their attacker, want to hang out with their attacker, right? Try to ingratiate themselves with their attacker, act like something's wrong with their attacker. They don't remember stuff. They get confused. They omit, and also, what she's not putting in there is lie. They omit and they lie. But all of that is to be expected. It's normal behavior when someone has been the victim of an SA or an R, and we should take no significance or no deeper meaning from the fact that supposed victims can't remember shit, get things wrong, lie about things, omit things, act in ways that seem completely irrational. It's just a free for all. Whatever they want to do is fine. And while it certainly may be theoretically possible, and maybe it does sometimes occur, where you have people who are genuine victims of things, and they do behave in all of these problematic ways, but they are nevertheless ultimately telling the truth about the basic story of victimization and who did it. Yes, that is, I'm sure, theoretically possible. And I'm sure, because all kinds of things happen in the world, I'm sure that it does sometimes happen. But I just have to tell all of you, as somebody who spent many years in academia and is, familiar with the way academic research is done, and even sociological, psychological research. I've taken criminal justice classes. I have had friends teach criminology, sociology, things like this. I've gotten sort of a behind the scenes, behind the curtain look at some of these types of studies, or whatever that people say indicates this stuff. And I just want to tell you that the actual science on these behaviors is extremely flimsy. And so, for instance, the idea that women never, and I've said this many times, I don't want to say it again too much, just beating a dead horse, but the idea that women don't lie about R or SA, like people say, well, studies show. No, there's really no good studies. The studies are all over the map. We don't know that. And I'm so tired of, in this media driven and yet seemingly information or truth impaired age, I'm so tired of people quoting facts, supposed facts that are really opinions based on studies, when if you actually do the research, there's really not a firm epistemological foundation for those things, for those ideas. And now, with the media being as kind of sick as it is, there's a kind of a sickness or a malady deeply entrenched in our media, and everyone knows and understands that to some degree, then these things are enlarged and reproduced and sensationalized and all of that. But this is what I'm trying to say here regarding Kat Tinbarge's assertions. It is utterly ludicrous, and I'm sorry if this is controversial. Sorry, not sorry. It is utterly ludicrous to say that when someone comes forward with allegations of SA or R, and if you don't know why I'm not saying them, it's because you say them too much, you can get in trouble with YouTube. It is ridiculous that when anyone comes forward with these allegations, it is ridiculous to say that they should be believed or given credibility if they can't remember important things, get details wrong, omit, lie, and behave in ways that are nonsensical or irrational, or seem to show that they have conflicted feelings toward their supposed attacker. It is ridiculous when someone comes forward for them to, with stories or allegations, for them to expect other people to overlook these problems. Why? Because while it may be theoretically and sometimes in actuality possible that people can be genuine victims of this stuff and still get all this shit wrong and behave in these weird ways, while it may be possible, we have absolutely no way of distinguishing that kind of behavior from genuinely non-truthful, deceptive, manipulative behavior. Okay, and I shouldn't even have to say this because it should be self-evident and it should be obvious. But the problem with our society today and with our media is that, as you know, is that critical thought is shut down, and really the intention is just to replicate these politically convenient cliches. If you have someone who comes to you with a story, now let's just take the essay and the R and the police and the media and all of that out of it. Okay, let's just say that someone in your life, so let's say someone that you feel kind of neutral about, right? It's not your best friend, you don't love them, hate them, or whatever, but someone comes to your life with a story, a bad story about someone that you know did something to me. And yet, this person who comes to you with this, you find out that the person lied or omitted critical facts related to their allegations. You find out that they were confused, that they got some significant elements wrong, or there were things that they should have remembered that they didn't remember. And then you find out that that person had been behaving in a contradictory and friendly and even perhaps a sexually solicitive manner toward the person they were accusing. You find that out, and what is your impulse going to be? Are you going to think, oh, well, people, when they accuse people of this stuff, they can't be, they can't be dependent on to like actually get things right or to tell the truth or to, no, you're going to say there are clearly issues here. There are clearly problems. I cannot rely on this person's word without some kind of decent corroborating evidence. And these people, I'm not just talking about Cat 10 Barge, but I'm talking about the whole lot of them. These people demand that we shut off our critical thinking and our basic human understanding, our foundational understanding of human behavior, because they said so, because they tell us that women never lie. And then these same people get upset when instead of you wanting to be spoon-fed this bullshit or force-fed this bullshit, you look around and you say, "You know what? There's these people on the internet, and yeah, they're not as supposedly important as you, Cat 10 Barge or NBC News or Rolling Stone, but you know what? They seem to actually have something that everyone on a gut level can detect if they are psychologically oriented toward the truth." And that is underlying an underlying sense of credibility. And people listen to Tug, or they listen to some of us, they watch our videos, they listen to our podcast, and they say, "You know what? I can tell that this person is tuned into reality, not bullshit." And Cat 10 Barge and the people like her, they just cannot stand it. It drives them crazy. And that goes too for the people who tell me every time I want to get into a new topic where it looks like something questionable has been done to someone's reputation in the media without adequate evidence. And I get interested in it and I want to talk about it. And there are always these people that come out of the woodwork and say, "No, not that. The Johnny Depp stuff, that was great. The Marilyn Manson stuff, that was great, but not that." And it doesn't seem to matter with those people how many different sort of mitigating factors I bring up, or how many qualifiers I put on it, or if I tell them, "No, I know it's not like Johnny Depp or Marilyn Manson necessarily," or, "No, I don't know how I feel about it. I want to look into it," or this or that. And it's this wall with some people, and even this aggression. I don't even read all the comments that I get, but every time I bring up something new, I get these sour and critical comments. And, so recently I've started looking into the Josh Homme, Brody Daly, I hope I'm saying their names right, situation. And it sure is looking like, to me, I've got a video on this coming out. It sure looks like we've got another Amber Heard type situation. I'm not saying everything is like Amber Heard and everything is like Johnny Depp or whatever, but there are serious issues on her side. And that's why she recently lost custody and is now legally restrained from seeing Josh Homme, from seeing their kids, from seeing Josh Homme's parents. And it turns out that it looks like she had her current boyfriend forge legal documents. Anyway, it's a whole thing I'm going to be getting into. But my point is, I've started talking about this a bit on live streams and also online on social media. And I have people invariably saying to me, messaging me saying, "Oh, I don't know about this," or "Oh, he hit a photographer, or he did this or that," and so it's like the idea that like I shouldn't look into it, or I might get suckered in. I have to tell you that, or Kesha, there's another one. I got some shit from people because I talked about Kesha on a live stream, and I talked about how it looks to me that she constructed a hoax as well against Dr. Luke, and that frankly I think she is a psychologically disturbed woman. And one of the things, I'll just say one, is that she was spreading around the lie that Katy Perry was AR'd by Dr. Luke, by the music producer Dr. Luke, that Katy Perry was AR'd by this guy, and that Katy Perry didn't was too worried about her own image to talk about it or to testify about it or to stand up for Kesha or to use her power and influence to stop this man from violating these poor innocent women, as Kesha was asserting Dr. Luke did to her. So Kesha was not only trying to destroy a music producer's reputation and career, and she basically did. I mean, there's parts of it that are still ongoing, but for a while. But also, she was trashing Katy Perry. And of course, it ended up coming out. I think Katy Perry, in some kind of a legal declaration, indicated that it wasn't true. And apparently, she had told some other people it wasn't true. So Kesha's just making up shit, and she's blackening the name of Katy Perry as someone who doesn't care about women and will just let a predator run around knowingly because she wants to protect her own image. Really? And I was talking about that. And I get shit from people about that. And it seems to be, and I think I figured out what is making people uneasy. And again, not most people, not everybody, okay, but I just from time to time, I like to check in and I like to talk about some of the negative feedback that I've been getting, and be honest if it's bugging me, right? And so I can address it. I think what's going on with people in these situations is that ultimately, I don't think a lot of people still really get how common false accusations are, especially when there are media involved, when there's a media driven element or a financial element. I I don't think people get just how many crazy people there are running around. And I know that's not, I know people don't like that term. We could say how many, I guess, malignant borderline personality disordered people there are running around. But as out there as the Amber Heard thing was, and as out there as the Evan Rachel Wood hoax is, they're not like complete outliers. Yes, most women of their ilk are not constructing hoaxes on that level and don't have the media firepower to do so. But there are a lot of women who have lied about a lot of stuff, and I think the media thing is making it much, much worse because it's giving people, especially people who love to wallow in self-victimization or a notion of themselves as victimized, and also personality disordered people whose hold on reality is tenuous, or who just have no problem lying because they think that it's still getting at some kind of deeper truth, like Evan Rachel Wood and Amber Heard. I know that they know they lied about a lot of shit and are lying about a lot of shit, but they think there's some deeper truth they're defending. Well, Johnny was bad to me. He was, maybe he didn't do the things I was saying he did, but deep down, he was the problem. Same with Evan Rachel Wood, I guess. I don't know what the fuck's going on in Evan Rachel Wood's mind, because what she's done is just so crazy and so out there, especially based on what I know about how Manson treated her well. But anyway, whatever. That's a whole other tangent. Check out my videos on that. But I'm just saying, I think at the root of this pushback that I get from some people, even fans, and when I start a new topic, there's always people dropping off my Patreon or telling me they'll never donate again. I had a whole new round of that with the Josh Homme, Brody Dowley thing. I had it with Nexium just because I was looking into Nexium, right? And I mean, I've said before, I've said before, I'm not trying to get that guy out of prison. I just think it's an interesting story, and I think he did some messed up stuff. But I'm just interested in what happened there. People get all upset that I'm even covering that. And then this Brody Daly Josh Homme thing. I'm telling people, I get messages from people saying that I just seem too intent on finding fault with all accusers. No, I don't think you understand. I am interested in some of these narratives where it seems like to me the prevailing narrative is wrong and where people are being perhaps falsely accused. Not in the case of Nexium per se, although there's a lot, as you know, questions about that life sentence and whether he deserves a life sentence. But I'm talking about like when I started covering the Manson thing, I got pushback. When I start covering the Brody Daly Josh Homme thing, I get pushback. When I start covering the Andrew Cuomo thing, I get pushback. And again, that's fine. That's part of the deal with this. But I think that what's going on, I think the underlying issue here is that people still have not grasped how common and how pervasive these false accusations are, and how they are not some glitch in the system, but they are, unfortunately, a kind of a feature of the system. And I'm not saying that most accusations are false, but I am saying that it seems like increasingly we're seeing more and more and more of this stuff. And with the media incentives, I think that basically every time there's an accusation now, I think it's basically a coin flip. And you look in a lot of these and you see there is something wrong. And I'm just not going to stop pointing out that there is something wrong. And Kat Tenbarge and people like her, they can write more articles and they can post more and they can complain and they can misinterpret my work and other people's work, but I'm not going to stop. And it is laughable that Kat Tenbarge thinks that we're all banking off of this, when really, to be honest with you, that's not the case, and things have really dried up since Depp versus Heard. So, we had that one nice moment of reward for our work, and it's back to the grind, and that's fine. But it really is insult, in a way, it's kind of insult to injury or whatever, to be working so hard and to have this, this yapping little dog, Kat Tenbarge, pissed and spewing all this nonsense over the internet. I get used to it, but sometimes it does tick me off a little too. Anyway, I appreciate you all. I'm going to be here as always, and I've got more content coming out, and I'm going to be looking into a lot of things. And so, I do, as I said, I do depend on your donations by and large, and the links are below for my tip jar and so forth. And like I always tell people, YouTube takes a lot more of your money, unfortunately, than PayPal. All right, everybody, subscribe, like, check out my other work, and I'll see you later. Bye.